Hello everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going to be profiling a Shining Sarcophagus deck list that I've been testing and using recently. It's a deck that I've weirdly drawn to. I find the deck very fascinating. It's certainly not the strongest deck, that is for sure, but it's got some cool things that it can do. It can fit a lot of non-engine and things in it. The overall ceiling of the deck is fairly low, but it's pretty easy to play. So I'll get straight into the list. I'm opting to play 3 of the Gandora G. I'm playing 3, I'm playing this list to go first. I think if you were to make it that little bit more competitive, you would be making it go second. Gandora G obviously going second is crazy. Being able to nuke and then banish the board is really strong. But yeah, at the moment I've got it as a going first list just for testing purposes, but I think probably it's more suited to go second. I'm playing 3 Gadget Trio. This gets everything kind of going. You can search Shining Sarcophagus or any spell trap that mentions it. So it does give you access to pretty much your whole engine as well. And then for the next few monsters, they're all kind of like tech options. I'm again just leaning into the deck, I guess. So going first, playing more Marshmallow. Now, again, like I said, the deck, not the strongest deck, but you know, with like a 2-card combo of Gadget Trio plus any other one of your main like consistency pieces, even Gandora G, you're able to kind of end on a board with the Gandora, with Marshmallow, and then you're able to end on the Magician. So I'm playing 2, probably would cut this to 1, and then 1 of the Swordsman as well. So these are all the monsters in engine, but certainly if you wanted to just make the deck a little bit more competitive, I would absolutely just cut these 3 without even thinking about it. The 2 Marshmallows and just 1 of the Magicians. The deck is tricky in that it has so much search power through your deck, but it actually also then has not really much follow-up. So in terms of like your graveyard, things getting to the graveyard, you don't really have ways to get them back. But then at the same time, you don't really want to play more copies of bad monsters. So the silent monsters, for example, we'll call them bad monsters. They're not fantastic. So I was playing 2-0 Magician, and you'd see a lot of people playing, I guess, 2 Magician as well. But yeah, it's tricky because you don't really want to draw them. And between the 3 copies, I feel like I was always seeing at least 1 of something in my hand at all times. You never really want to normal summon the Magician either. It's not really that helpful unless you, open specifically the ties that bind, which is again, it's only really a one-off. So I'd probably cut this. If the deck had more recursion from graveyard, I would do it in a heartbeat. But yeah, it's tricky. I think this is certainly the more optimal ratio, just 1 and 1. And I think in the future when we get the Dark Magician card as well, you probably just play 1 and 1. But yeah, that's where we're at for now. Then for the engine spells, obviously there's going to be 3 Shining Sarcophagus, 3 Future Silence. These cards are all just 1-card combos. 2 Turn Silence. You could certainly argue bumping this up to 3. This card is really, really strong. Probably like my favorite card in the archetype. It just seems really powerful. And then 1 Ties That Bind. And then another card, I'm only just playing it as a joke. I threw it in there because I knew that we had a couple of like kids at locals and things like that. So I was playing this 1 Stronghold, but this card is just terrible. It summons itself as generally, it can be a 6,000 attack beater, which is cool. Close out games very easily, but yeah, no, you don't play this. This is bad. So I would certainly be cutting 1, 2, 3, 4 from the deck moving forward, in favor of either more non-engine or buffing out the engine counts in places like making Turn Silence a 3-0, for example. You could opt to play 2 Ties That Bind, but I just don't think there's enough targets that's worth doing that. But definitely the 3rd Turn Silence could be a good option. And then moving into non-engine, we are playing 3 Pot of Prosperity. Obviously it's engine, but it's not part of the core itself. And I opted to play Branded Fusion. I've tossed up between playing Branded Fusion or the Horus engine. I've gone for the branded fusion engine, and I'm playing Albaz and Dark Magician. You would have seen the Dragoon earlier. Dragoon's obviously very strong. I'm just playing branded fusion as a way to kind of bait out interruptions, but also just insulate against hand traps. Then we're playing Fenrir and Shifter. This deck obviously, as I've said, like really doesn't really have a way to recur back from the graveyard. So once things hit the graveyard, they're done. So Shifter just is crazy, of course. Shifter alongside branded fusion is fine as well because yeah, you can still get to Dragoon with no worries if your things are banished because Libellion shuffles them back. So that's why I've gone with that. Otherwise, you could swap out Shifter and the branded fusion stuff for the Horus engine. It does a similar purpose, but I think having Shifter is just a lot stronger, but just a little bit less recursion. And then I'm just playing Ash and Imperm. So we've got the 9 hand traps. Fenrir is a bit of a board breaker. I count branded fusion as a little bit of a board breaker. Obviously, otherwise it baits interruptions, but that's the main deck. It's 41. You would make it 40 by cutting out the bad trap card, but for the extra deck, it's actually, the extra deck is not correct. I was originally playing Extravagance because I was just blinding second. Like I said, I've just been testing different things. So I've kind of built parts of this extra deck with Extravagance in mind. So that was the reason why I've doubled up on a lot of the branded stuff, was just to have access to it. I did throw Sanctifier in there as an option. Just the Silent Magician 0 is a light spellcaster. So there's a world where you could make Sanctifier, with branded fusion, and the logic was being is that this becomes, I guess, recursion if you don't have access to engine, but you do obviously in the graveyard because you played the game a little bit. So you would make the 0 and you could, bring back Gadget Trio and things like that. So that was the logic. Like I said, the deck doesn't really need its extra deck at all. The only thing I summoned from the extra deck, so far, the only cards I really ever summon are just the branded things with Dragoon. Sometimes you'll go into Typhon, but the rest of it really just doesn't come up. It's just stuff to fill the extra deck: access code, Selene, SP, IP, Liner, and Dark. I mean, you could play more super poly targets, you could play Ultimate Slayer, you could play Nadir Servant, and things like that. So there's definitely options you could play in the extra deck. I've just gone for fairly generic stuff. Definitely you would cut down the branded list, the branded stuff, if you were playing Pot of Prosperity, but yep. Then for the side deck, I was playing Nibiru, been running with Phantasme, Talents, Cosmic Cyclone, and Debo to round out the side deck. But what I'll do, I'll show you a couple of very quick test hands. The deck is very kind of linear. There's not much variance that the deck really has at all, but I'll show that now. All right, so shuffling up for some test hands. I do apologize if the sound is different or not kind of what it usually is. I have just moved house, and so the room I'm in is fairly empty. Need to build some flat packs, but I'll do some test hands and hopefully the audio isn't as bad as I'm thinking that it is. Alright, so we have, for our first test hand, we've got Impermanence, Gadget Trio, Turn Silence, and Ash Blossom. So of course, having access to 3 non-engine is excellent. We happy to have this going second if we're going second. Even going first, it's great because it's just going to make our end board that bit stronger. Gadget Trio plus Turn Silence is fantastic. This means that we're going to be fairly insulated if the trio resolves. And so obviously if the trio doesn't resolve, then we're in trouble. And anyone who understands this deck will know that a lot of the effects require Sarcophagus to be on the field and a monster that mentions it. So obviously Gadget Trio is going to try and get us to Sarcophagus in this hand. If we were to get interrupted on the trio, then obviously we'd be ending our turn. But if we can get to Sarcophagus, the very basic 1-card combo is going to look something like this. Trio is going to search Sarcophagus. Sarcophagus can search for the ties that bind. And then when you activate the ties that bind, obviously now we're protected from something like an Ash Blossom at this point, if this is what they wanted to stop. But we'd summon out a 0, a Magician, and a Swordsman. Up to you whether you put them into attack or defense. I think attack is probably just fine. Especially because we have that Turn Silence set, so if they do try to go to battle and force something out, then we can increase the levels straight away, but from here we've obviously set our cards. We've got Ash in hand, so we've got the 3 interrupts here. Turn silence becomes an interruption as well. The 2 zeros are interruptions as well. The second effective Sarcophagus to send a monster to the graveyard by discarding a spell very rarely comes up because we're not playing really enough spell cards to facilitate. The ones that we do play are the ones we would want to set, like Turn Silence. But yeah, that's a very basic 1-card combo. I'm sure we'll see the 2-card combo as well. Yeah, the test stands here aren't going to be anything too crazy. Obviously, we're playing lots of non-engine, so we should see a pretty decent spread of engine and not. And then obviously if we draw Branded Fusion, we're simply using it as a means to get Dragoon out, to help insulate just the plays from there if we have the 1-card combo. The only thing that I find a shame about Branded Fusion is that, you know, it just doesn't get us to engine. Similar to how you think of Chimera, Branded Fusion gets you to the full engine by going for Brindbrum, but we don't get there with this deck. So we've got 0, Branded Fusion, just talking about Branded Fusion, Sarcophagus, and Turn Silence. So again, this is what I said, like drawing these is really unideal. They don't do anything in hands. Like you can summon them from hand with Ties That Bind, so that is something, I suppose. But from here we would go Branded Fusion, of course. We're obviously looking for Ash Blossom if they've got it, but otherwise we can just go ahead and get rid of Dark Magician and Albaz. Oops. Let's go there. Into Libellion, we can discard the excess copy of Branded Fusion and shuffle back the Albaz and Dark Magician. I just like shuffling back the Albaz, of course, so that we have it for future Branded Fusions. It feels pretty good. So we'll summon Dragoon, and obviously that means that we're fairly insulated from anything at this point. But we only have the 1-card combo again as before. So we can go Shining Sarcophagus. This will grab Trio. Trio's normal summon will get us to the Ties That Bind. And as you can see, it is the same point as before. And then we could activate the Ties That Bind. The other thing that we could do if we opted not to search Trio here is, and actually I'll show you this anyway just because it's something that looks different. We can actually normal summon 0 at this point because we opened it alongside Shining Sarcophagus. So now when we use Shining Sarcophagus, instead of grabbing the Gadget Trio, we can grab Ties. And then we can fire off the Ties That Bind because we control 0 and Sarcophagus. We can summon out 2 monsters, so it can be Magician, and we could actually then go and summon out a Gadget Trio, which can search. Now we already have Turn Silence in this case, so this is where we could go and pick up Future Silence. Now we do not benefit at all from activating the Future Silence at this point. I mean, the only thing we'd want to be grabbing is a Gadget Trio for next turn, so we may as well just hold it because we could grab Gendora depending on how the turn plays out. Obviously we need to hold a card for Dragoon, so we could hold the Future Silence here. We could set the Turn Silence as another interruption as well. So, I mean, obviously we got this, but you know, potentially we're just going to pitch it for Dragoon anyway, or we can hold it with the Turn Silence and choose one of them to discard between the other 3 interruptions. It also becomes fodder for Shining Sarcophagus as well. Obviously in that hand there was no non-engine, like it obviously had Branded Fusion, but it can be fairly easy to beat for your opponent as well. I'll show the 2-card combo just while we're here and thinking about it. So it's just any 2 of the main engine pieces, any of the 3 ofs really will get you there. So if we go Future Silence, we can grab Gadget Trio, which we can normal summon and pick up the Ties That Bind. Now, this 2-card combo is not the strongest combo, but it is certainly a combo that Yugi would be proud of because it sets up the whole gang with what the deck can currently do, because then we could use the Shining Sarcophagus. We probably should have activated this earlier just to bait that we had turn silence, but now we can use Shining Sarcophagus to search for Gandora. We can summon out Gandora. We can use its effect. We're going to pay half our life points and destroy Gadget Trio. The Shining Sarcophagus will stick around, and the Gandora will summon out one of our monsters from the deck. So we could summon out the Magician Zero here. Gadget Trio will activate on the new chain to set Stronghold the Hidden Fortress. Not a good card, you shouldn't play this normally. And then we can of course activate the Ties That Bind and summon out more Marshmallow and the Swordsman. Like I said, it's a board that Yugi would be proud of. Everyone in the artwork is on the field because, obviously in the opponent's turn we can summon out Stronghold, and it's going to have a 5,000-6,000 attack points. So we can certainly try and push for game with this. This board it's fairly annoying to deal, not fairly annoying. I mean, obviously you just can't beat over the guys in battle is the main thing. Yeah, the deck is very fair. More Marshmallow could certainly do more. The fact that it only protects from battle is a bit sad. Obviously that's going to stop these from getting just beaten over with 1,000 attack, but I mean, it'd be cool if they just protected from targeting full stop. And then there's actually a funny conflict between Marshmallow and Stronghold because, I mean, your opponent can only attack more Marshmallow, but also why would they attack it if they know they can't destroy it? And then this is just going to trigger anyway to destroy their monster. So yeah, these two conflict in a funny way. The deck is funny, but like I said, I find the deck really enjoyable. Yeah, you wouldn't play these cards in a far more serious version. And it's only, I was only playing it just for the locals experience really, but yeah, you certainly wouldn't play these if you're trying to be remotely competitive, and I think you would certainly blind second. It's probably going to be the most successful version of this deck, if it has any success at all. But if you're trying to blind second, you may as well just play 10 player, right? But anyway, that's going to be the deck profile and the test hands here. We'll put the QCR Gandora on the top there just because it looks great. And I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.